Nemec calls out the New Jersey Devils. Plus, we'll take a look at some of the awesome promotional items the Devils will be having for this upcoming season. All that and more on this edition of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. And a pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Devils fans. What is going on? As always, it is your host, your best friend, your confidant, and your number one source, Neil Villapiano. And welcome to a much anticipated edition of the Devil's State of Mind podcast, right here on the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as Sports Wire Radio, the best place to get everything you need to know about your New Jersey Devils. And as always, Devils fans, hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you're checking out this podcast episode. And thank you guys, as always, for taking time out of your day to check these episodes out. You guys already know that I greatly appreciate it. And I know I've said this probably 1,000 times over the last couple of weeks and couple of months, but do apologize for the lack of content or consistent content. I'm just going to be blunt with you guys. If you remember, I'm here at Syracuse University pursuing my broadcast and digital journalism master's degree. I finished up the summer portion of the program 2 weeks ago, and this is only day two of the fall semester. So I'm going to be obviously here in Syracuse a lot more starting now. Just had my first day of class yesterday. I'm fortunate enough that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have the whole day off, which is nice. So I'll have a little bit more time to hopefully get some more episodes out to you and to get more content out to all of you guys. So as always, I appreciate the patience and understanding. And I appreciate everybody sticking around. That's just, me being honest. I appreciate just how much you guys continue to enjoy my content, even if I'm not super consistent. Really do appreciate it. Really quick, as always, shout out to our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And I know obviously things are a little bit slow, but as we all know, first of all, Major League Baseball, we are down to the nitty gritty here in terms of the, playoff races and getting things going with that. We also have, again, we're into now week 3 of NFL preseason. We are so very close to the beginning of the NFL season. And of course, as well, college football is right around the corner. So even though things are not as super exciting as they would be before, nonetheless, we are moments away from getting things really going here. And of course, DraftKings Sportsbook is your number one destination to get in on all of the huge cash prizes. And all you got to do is sign up with our promo code THPN. You bet $5, you get $300 instantly in risk-free bet money. It's that simple, guys. I can't explain it enough just how great of an offer this is. So if you want to get in on the action again, sign up with our promo code at DraftKingsSportsbook.com. THPN is our promo code. Again, bet $5. You get $300 instantly in risk-free bets, courtesy of DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. And as always, Devils fans, make sure to bet responsibly. Okay, so now we've gotten through all of that. Before we get into the other two topics that I mentioned, including the main one of this episode, I wanted to talk to you guys really quickly about something that I also talked about over on the podcast Instagram. I went on live about an hour and a half ago at the time of this episode, and I wanted to talk again about the same thing here on the podcast, and that involves the discourse and disrespect that I've seen from both Devils fans and Minnesota Wild fans, and also to an extent, some journalists as well over the last couple of months. Now, obviously, you guys know what I'm talking about, and that is the constant back and forth on whether or not Minnesota Wild defenseman Quinn Hughes ultimately will sign an extension with the Wild, as the longer that he remains unsigned, and he is still unsigned at the time of this recording, there's going to continue to be more rumors, more speculation, all of this stuff about whether or not he's going to stay in Minnesota or in a year's time sign with the New Jersey Devils and have all three Hughes brothers on the same team that quickly. But I've seen over the last couple of weeks and couple of months just a lot of back and forth between both fan bases about why Quinn Hughes should stay in Minnesota, why he should come to New Jersey, and all that stuff. And I get people wanting to express their opinion, but there have been times where things have been taken way too far. And the one I'm going to specifically point out is from Michael Russo of The Athletic, who covers the Minnesota Wild. A lot of you guys already know who he is. I'm sure he's become one of the most well known guys on social media when it comes to covering the NHL for The Athletic. And I think, honestly, for the NHL in general, but not necessarily for good reasons. But before I show that, I just want to clarify something. I think that Michael Russo many times does a really good job of his overall just coverage of the Minnesota Wild. When I look at just his work and I look at what he's written about at times and his breakdown of things, I think he does a really good job. So I just want to clarify that. And I want to make that clear to everybody as me being as balanced as I possibly can be when I come to you talking about this. But I saw this today because Michael Russo put out an article earlier today talking about the latest that we know about what the situation is with Quinn Hughes. This comes in response to what Elliot Friedman said on 32 Thoughts this morning, where Friedman said that he hadn't really heard anything new in terms of where the Wild are in their contract negotiations with Quinn Hughes and his agent Pat Brisson. And that obviously led to a lot of Devils fans and other fans in general just again continuing to speculate about maybe he won't re-sign in Minnesota. Maybe he'll go to the Devils, this, that, and the other thing. Michael Russo put out an article which is on The Athletic. If you're able to read it, go check it out. And he talked about the sources that he spoke to from around the league said that a lot of the reporting about the Wild and Quinn Hughes not talking is BS and all that stuff. And granted, a lot of these sources had to remain anonymous, this, that, and the other thing. And I know that Michael Russo has also reported several times over the last couple of months about where both sides are, saying it's really close, then it's a possibility. It's like all these different kinds of word phrases, I think is the best way to put it. And I think we've kind of reached the boiling point with this whole back and forth between Michael Russo and specifically dealing with Devils fans, because there's a lot of Devils fans that are in his mentions and his DMs. And this one today I felt was much more personal and quite frankly very disrespectful to other people in the industry when it comes to reporting and covering teams. And as you can see here, and if you can't, I'll just read it to you. If you're here on YouTube and you could see it, but if you're listening, I can just read it to you. Michael Russo responded to a guy on Twitter. I'm not going to tell you his name. He says, "You're a fan of a team that sadly doesn't have a single actual beat writer. To many of you, anybody not a fanboy blogger is a mouthpiece." That was a that was a, you've gone too far kind of thing. Like again, I get, that Russo has in the past responded to a lot of different people and everything, but to be a journalist at an organization like The Athletic that, other than obviously what happened with Diana Rossini covering the NFL and all of that, tries to portray itself as a very balanced, very fair, and very professional kind of organization. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people that work there that do exactly that. But the fact that Russo many times has been allowed to do these things without sort of any sort of, you know, I guess being reprimanded for his actions, um, is is not good. Is not good. But I will say this: everybody is at fault for the disrespect and the discourse that has happened. I I believe firmly that Russo is responsible for letting his emotions get the better of him to ultimately have these kind of reactions and respond to these people. But I also blame the fans as well for not being decent human beings and just taking time out of their day to simply just destroy somebody who is, who is a beat writer, who is doing their job and things like that. Both parties are at fault here. And this is why it comes down to me to a much more simplistic people, human being kind of aspect. At the end of the day, kindness is the most important thing in our world. And I know that it seems like in this world right now that, kindness is at its all-time low. But I still genuinely believe there are a lot of very good people out there. And we need to be respectful of one another because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. And to see this kind of disrespect that people do on social media is just so frustrating to me. It's so disrespectful. And I know I keep repeating and saying that word, but it truly is disrespectful. And as somebody who has dreams and aspirations of wanting to be a hockey journalist, media guy, especially in the NHL and hopefully even with the New Jersey Devils, I just hate seeing this, especially on Twitter. And I know that Twitter is the most toxic, probably, of all the social medias, but there's toxicity everywhere. And it's not just on social media, it's also in person. And we need to change that. We need to go back to realizing that everybody is a human being. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know what people are dealing with on a daily basis. And saying something like that and saying whatever can be very, very harmful in many ways to somebody who could already be struggling. And so the old saying goes, treat everybody with kindness, but it's so true. And I think we've lost that in so many ways. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to if you got nothing nice to say, don't say it. I get wanting to be a fan and ultimately wanting to cheer on your team. And you have every right to do so. And maybe even playful banner, sure. But to just go out and say, these disrespectful things, and this also goes for reporters as well who feel the need to speak like that. There's no place for that. So I said this and I put it on Twitter as well in a thread, which you can go check out. I said, for fans, at the end of the day, we are just fans, right? We are just fans that want to see our team win. But there is no need to go out and be cruel to other people and to be cruel to other fan bases like that. I get the competitiveness, all that, but there's no place for it. Treat people with kindness, treat people and be fair because, again, you don't know what they're going through. Be better, be respectful. Journalists, I'd say the same thing. Reporters, same thing, especially with reporters because honestly, you have to focus on doing your job and doing it to the best of your abilities. And there are so many people out there that do exactly that. Michael Russo does that in many ways. I'm going to be honest. I do not approve that he basically called out every single person that covers the New Jersey Devils. Back in 2020, when I started the Devil State of Mind podcast, there was very little to no coverage of this team. The best coverage that we had was the other podcasts that we had out there. And I'm very proud of what I've built, and I'm proud of what others have built to get the Devils coverage to where it is today. But think about the people that cover this team right now. James Nichols, Daniel Amoya, Christy Flannery. Before he moved to the Eagles, you had Ryan Novozinski. Now you got Ace from Running with the Devils, who now covers the Devils for NJ.com. You got Ben Brunelli, who covers the Utica Comets. You have all of this coverage now. You have all of this coverage, and you have several podcasts out there. But focusing on just the beat writers, they do not deserve that disrespect in no way, shape, or form. They did not deserve that. That's ridiculous. They do as good of a job as anybody out there of covering this team from all different aspects. And I applaud James Nichols for saying earlier in a response to that comment that he works his butt off to give fans the best coverage that they can. And we should be very thankful of that. I'm very thankful of that. I'm very thankful. And I used to work with James. He used to be actually part of this podcast network for a little bit. He's a good dude and a really good reporter. Same thing can be said for everybody else. That also includes people like Alex Chauvency as well. My guy JP, who we've had on the podcast. You got Jess Amato, Donna. You got so many people over at the Hockey Writers that do a really good job. All of these people do a really good job of covering the team that we all care and love about. But the same could be said for every other team in the National Hockey League and every other, area you can think of. Bottom line is this: be kind, choose kindness, because the world needs more of it. The world absolutely needs more kindness from you, from everyone else. This disrespect online and in person needs to stop. If we can focus on being kind to one another, this world will change so much for the better. I believe that so firmly in my heart. So I just wanted to talk about this for a few minutes because I'm just so tired of seeing this disrespect and this back and forth between everybody, whether it's Devils fans to Wild fans to Devils fans, reporters at fans. No, this needs to stop. Everybody needs to choose kindness and stop with this disrespect. Because at the end of the day, we all want to just care about hockey. We want to just enjoy hockey to the best that we can. And having this disrespect and this, hate and everything, there's no place for it. No place in sports and no place in the world. And I know that's such a cliche and easy thing to say, but it is very true. Kindness, kindness, kindness. It beats everything else. If you could be anything, if you can't be anything than just one thing, be kind. So that's what I wanted to say. And I just, you know, whether you agree with me, not agree with me, um, you know, again, this is just my opinion, and that's what I wanted to talk about. So, okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is kind of the main thing. Um, that is part of this episode, and it involves former Devils defenseman, now current Calgary Flame, Shimon Nemec. Now, Nemec was at the European Players Tour for the NHL, and he spoke to several people. And from the title of this article, you can see Nemec seeks revenge after trade to Flames, and there's a quote there. I want to read to you a couple of the quotes that Shimon Nemec said about his time with the New Jersey Devils. Let's see if I can find it here. It's in small print. So, yeah, so the first one that comes up is I think I couldn't play my best hockey. Again, also speaking to David Alter, who covers the Calgary Flames for the Hockey News during last week's NHLPA European Player Media Tour in Munich, Germany. Quote, I wasn't given the opportunity that I want, and at the end of the day, they decided it's best for me and for them to get traded, and I'm happy with that. And Nemec also made it clear that he never asked to be traded, but he is happy that ultimately that's what happened. The next thing that I saw here, again, we're just scrolling down, he talked about also saying, I wanted to be a number one defenseman to power play and everything, but two other guys wanted to do the same, talking about Luke Hughes and Dougie Hamilton. So it's tough to manage that. And then lastly here, there was there's a couple actually more quotes. He said, I wanted to get it done, talking about, coming from the Devils and ultimately being traded and then signed with the Calgary Flames. It's a new place. It's a new opportunity. Nation's incredible. But the last thing here that really kind of stands out is when he said, I just want to prove to everyone that New Jersey wasn't right. So here is my thoughts on the whole thing. First and foremost, I appreciate that Nemec has always been fairly honest. Not fairly, he's always been honest about where he stands and ultimately what he wants. Where we got to a bad point with Shimon Nemec was the constant calling up and sending down that he was dealing with in the early goings with former Devils general manager Tom Fitzgerald. And I think that the way that they went about developing Nemec wasn't the right way. I think they were forced to play him a lot, but then they also didn't treat him the way that he probably should have been treated. Now, there were many times where I felt that Nemec was better than Luke Hughes. There have been a bunch of times where that's happened. There have been times where Nemec looked better than Dougie Hamilton. And I can understand where Nemec would want that opportunity to be a number one defenseman on a team. And he will certainly get that opportunity playing with the Calgary Flames. But the thing that upsets me and I don't like is when he basically talked about he wasn't given that much ice time and opportunities to really, really flourish. Here's the thing that I want to just show you, just from a stat perspective. Just from a stat perspective, roll with me here. So this is from, let me see. Yep. So here, this is from, just checking out StatMuse. So last year, Nemec played in 68 games, scored 11 goals, 15 assists for 26 points. Had career highs in goals and points, was a lot better power play wise. Again, definitely better when he played. He also played 19 minutes, nearly 20 minutes, excuse me, of ice time, which is a pretty good amount, if you ask me. So the question is, what was he exactly saying about ice time? My only guess is that he wanted to be treated like a number one defenseman. And for Tom Fitzgerald, I just don't think he ever really saw it in that situation. And I think also the Luke Hughes factor with him being Jack's younger brother and the reputation that the Hughes brothers have, I think there was some discourse there. As far as Dougie Hamilton is concerned, I mean, Tom Fitzgerald tried to move him. He tried to move him. Ultimately, it didn't happen. And then Sonny Mehta really likes Dougie Hamilton and wants to keep him around. And now he's going to be back for at least next year. We'll see how things go. I think it's good that Nemec ultimately got traded for his career because I think moving forward, I don't think that there was going to continue to be many opportunities for him to be that number one guy. But now he goes to Calgary and gets the opportunity to be a number one guy. You give Sonny Mehta a lot of credit that he was able to get a pretty substantial amount of value for Nemec, given the situation and given at times maybe the lack of like blowaway stats. Um, so I think ultimately it worked out for both sides. Nemec, of course, is going to use this as motivation to prove to the Devils that they were wrong for giving up on him. I don't think there's any ill will between Nemec and Sonny Mehta because there wasn't that much of a relationship because Mehta only took the job a couple months earlier and then made this move. And I think that Mehta was trying to be fair. I think he was trying to be fair, and I think he realized, that probably speaking with Nemec and his representatives, that it was probably better for both sides to move on, which is totally fine, which is absolutely totally fine. So again, I said it before when the trade ultimately happened that I wish Nemec nothing but the best. It'll be really interesting to see what ultimately happens with that. I don't fully agree with all the calling out that Nemec said, but I get as well where he's coming from. So that's just where it is. But let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with a lot of what Nemec is saying? Do you not agree? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments here on YouTube. Also, just on social media as well. Just hit me up. My DMs are always open if you want to just have a little exchange, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, even Facebook as well. If you want to talk, BlueSky, just let me know. Would definitely love to interact with you guys much, much more. And last but certainly not least, we'll end this episode on a fun note as we finally got word of the Devils' promotional schedule, something that, other than the obvious regular schedule release, fans are always looking forward to. And the Devils certainly come up with some creative giveaway nights. So let's kind of go through a bunch of them. So, as you can see, home opener against the Flyers on October 1st. It's a light up LED stick giveaway. Kind of curious to see ultimately what that's all about. You have K-pop night, military appreciation night with a military hat giveaway. But then you have this Thanksgiving week kickoff, which is on November 23rd against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And you'll see to the right, it says Devils Butter Bench giveaway. And now I'm going to show you in case you haven't seen it yet. That's exactly what it looks like. It is a butter holder. Or I think that's the term that they use. And it's supposed to be a Devil's hockey bench. Now, we've seen gravy boats. We've seen gravy Zambonis. We've seen a lot of creative things. This is definitely one that I haven't seen yet. And I will say, this is probably going to be one of, if not the most popular promotional item that people are going to try to get. And I love it. And I give the Devils a lot of credit for doing something a little bit different than what a lot of people would tend to do, what a lot of teams would tend to do during this Thanksgiving, period where they try to get kind of creative with it. This is fun. I think it's really fun, and I'm excited to see. I hope I get a chance to either get one or at least see one in person. Very curious to see what this is all about. It looks cool. I like it a lot. Just wanted to show you guys because I think out of all of them, that's probably the one that stands out the most. So again, give the Devils a lot of credit. Some of the other nights we have Devils Youth Foundation night, Devils Down the Shore. There's always one. One of my personal favorites, Hockey Fights Cancer. That will be on January 9th. That's a pretty late Hockey Fights Cancer night, but nonetheless, it says an HFC plug card giveaway. I guess player kit. I don't really know what that exactly means. But moving forward, you have Youth Hockey Day. Arsenic Gritsik bag tag figurine giveaway. Again, not sure what that's going to look like. Mascot Madness, Nightlight, which again, you'll have a lot of mascots coming in to hang out with NJ Devil. We have our first Luke Hughes bobblehead giveaway, which will be on Fan Appreciation Night. They also say in the bottom here, Ring of Honor. So be curious to see who goes in the Ring of Honor this year. A couple of other, these are the cultural celebrations. You have November 18th versus the Montreal Canadiens called Newark Celebration. So I'm assuming it's going to be a celebration of the city that the Devils play in. You have Jewish Community Night, which is on December 1st against the Sharks. Pride Celebration, which is on January 19th versus the Dallas Stars. Black History Celebration on February 23rd against the Hurricanes. And then another game against the Hurricanes, the Hecho and Jersey. I'm sure that's for, I'm assuming that's Latino Heritage Night. Additional group nights to be announced as well. So overall, that is the Devils' promotional and heritage culture schedule for the upcoming season. Again, I think the Butter bench is going to be the highlight of the entire year, but there's certainly some other interesting ones that the Devils have coming down this season. Let me know what you guys think is your favorite one. I'm assuming a lot of you are going to agree with the Butter bench, but if not, what are your favorite ones? What certain games or nights you're looking forward to? Would really love to interact with you guys even more. But on that note, Devils fans, that's going to do it for this episode of the Devil's State of Mind podcast. Again, thank you guys for your patience, your understanding, and your continued support of the podcast. Really excited to get an episode out here. Not going to promise when the next one comes out, but hopefully sooner rather than later. But nonetheless, thank you guys for hanging out with me. Again, you could check out the podcast over on social media, Devil's State of Mind on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter, it's at Devil's State as well. You could also check out the podcast on all social media platforms, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google, all that good stuff. And if you're on Apple or Spotify, do me a favor and leave a 5-star rating on either one. It goes such a long way to helping grow the podcast and get it out to more Devils fans like yourself. Also, if you're new here on YouTube, make sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Tell all your friends to do the exact same and continue to spread it out. And again, grow the podcast here on YouTube as well in the video format to more Devils fans, again, like yourself. But again, thank you all so very much for checking out this podcast episode, and we will see you in the next episode. Everyone, continue to be the awesome people that you are. And as I always say, at the end of every episode, you got to put those horns up, baby, and say those words. Let's go, Devils.